It is available for purchase on all the social media sites.
That's right. There you go. It'll be available for purchase. But hello, everyone. The group that we have in here right now, want to welcome you all to our very first Power Hour with the Greater Chambersburg Chamber of Commerce. Really appreciate all of you being here. And most importantly, really appreciate Randy Wilson from Real PD taking the time to come in here today and do our very first Power Hour. You know, as a chamber, especially me as the membership director, I still want to get our members engaged with one another. And I still, you know, it's really tough. I'm so used to, you know, going out, shaking hands, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are as well. So it's a very, very difficult time that we're going through here by just having to be, sheltered at home per se. So what I talked with Randy about is doing a little segment here today for us folks that are really struggling, you know, being stuck indoors and not being able to get out. And we were thinking of something creative that we could do to, just help us folks that are going through that struggle. So Randy and I discussed the topic, and he came up with the topic of navigating through a crisis. So that's what Randy is going to be focusing on today. What I asked for everyone in here right now, I believe most everybody except for Randy and I are muted right now. So Randy will, as we had discussed right before everybody had gotten in here, be looking for a little bit of, you know, interaction throughout the Zoom meeting here today. So with that being said, anytime that you guys are looking to talk, there is a mute unmute button at the top right corner. So if you'd like to engage, just make sure you go about clicking that button before doing so, or we're not going to hear you. So some of you I see by video. If you're having any issues, just wave your hand. I'll be able to see you. But it looks like most of you are on audio here today. So again, that mute unmute button is going to be pretty important. But without further ado, don't want to talk too much. Randy, would love for you to take over. Again, his topic today is navigating through a crisis. So really excited to hear what you have to say, Randy. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate it. So I'm just going to start off with a little conversation I had with my mom a couple of weeks ago. I reached out to her and I was just curious. I said, "Hey, Mom, have you ever encountered anything like what's going on now?" And her response was, "Nothing like it." And I thought, well, she's 76. I said, well, what about the Korean War? What about the Vietnam War? And she said, nothing like it. I was like, holy smokes, that's pretty significant. So then I started thinking, I said, okay, well, 2001, we had anthrax, 02 West Nile, 03 SARS, 05 bird flu, 06 E. coli, 08 the economy, 09 swine flu, 2010 the BP oil spill, 2012 Mayan calendar, world's going to end, 2013 North Korea is going to blow us up, 2015 Disney measles, 2016 the Zika virus, right? Every one of those passed, and then here comes 2020 and COVID-19 or Corona or Rona, right? But that's going to pass too. This one is going to pass too. It might feel like a kidney stone passing, but it's going to pass. And we know that for sure, just like everything else. There's always a crisis. There always will be a crisis in some way. And I'm so glad that you're all here today so we can talk about it, because not only are we in one right now, but we're going to be in more later. I plan on living till I'm at least 100. That gives me another, 45 years or so. I'm pretty sure I'll see another. And I think 45 more years. I think that's older than Jordan is. Holy smokes. That's pretty wild.
Randy. Yeah, it is.
So we're going to talk about what happens in a crisis. I want to help everyone understand how we can navigate through the crisis, and also learn how we can grow through the crisis. So kind of three parts. And like Jordan said, I'm Randy Wilson, Real PD, reliable, efficient, ethical leadership, professional development. I'm a John Maxwell certified coach, teacher, team builder, DISC personality consultant. And I'm your friend. I'm your friend, and I'm glad that you're here today just so we can talk. Thanks again, Jordan and Jimmy, for inviting me. Yeah, ground rules. If you want to speak up, if you have something to share, a thought, a comment, or anything, please raise your hand, speak up. Jordan, I'm sure is going to do a great job moderating, and I need your help there, Jordan.
Yep, you got it, Randy.
Yep. So four things. I'll be honest with you. Jordan and I, we talked a week ago, I think. And so between that conversation and today, I've been modifying what I wanted to share with you. And I narrowed each of these three pieces down to four things. So 4 things that happen in a crisis. Number 1, things around us change. Things around us change. Now, there are 2 kinds of changes. One is cyclical and another is structural. Cyclical changes are things like, declines in employment, seasonal changes in your business. You're like, well, here comes, November. We just don't have a whole lot of business, but then it picks up, right? So it's up and down, cyclical. It always happens. Things don't stay the same in a cyclical change. But sometimes there are changes that are structural changes. And that's what's happening now. It's not a cyclical change. It's a structural change. And think about a couple of examples of structural change. Going from horse to buggy. I wasn't there. I don't remember it. But when we went from horse to buggy, we never went back to horses, right? Industry changed and travel changed and the families changed and everything changed with that structural change. Another example might be, we went from the old film to digital, right? We're not going back to the old film. It's not a cyclical change. Everything, we all probably have, we all have cameras on our phones. We take digital pictures all the time. That's another structural change. We are not going back. And what we're in today is another structural change. So that's why it's important to understand the difference between the two. Business meetings are being kind of operated differently. Virtual, right? We're trying to figure out how to meet customer needs to stay in touch with everybody in this environment. And, we're tearing up the bandwidth, right? We're just, I bought a new Zoom account last week, and I'm like, okay, well, and I know I'm not going back. This is for real. Social distancing is a norm that we might kind of go back to the way things were, but we're always going to be conscious of it. Elbow bumps, maybe not that, full body hug. And, if you're down in South America, you get 2 kisses, it's, I don't know if that'll ever happen again. It's a structural change. So it's critical for businesses to adjust to the structural change for our long-term viability. If we don't adjust, we know we're not going back, so we need to do something. But the good thing is that you get to decide. It's in your power. It's in your control. Are you going to shift your business? Is all your future business going to be the same way it is today? Or are you going to try and shift back to the way it was? Or is it going to kind of be a blend? I don't know the answer for each of you. So you're in control, right? You get to decide how you want your business to be with this structural change. And this is your chance. This is your chance to be a business or a leader in your industry. Are you going to wait and see what everybody else in your industry does? Or are you going to lead the way? This is an opportunity to lead the way. Don't wait for everybody else. Be creative, right? Find out ways that you can just kind of forge that new path. But put thought into it. Put thought into it, because again, this is structural. Like the horse and buggy, we're not going to go back exactly to the way things were. There's nothing been like, we've never had anything like this before, and it's changing the world. It's changing the world. Okay, so that's number one. That's one thing that happens in a crisis. Number two, different people process the crisis differently. This is important because I'm a human being, and I know you're humans too. And sometimes we get irritated with other people. We're like, can't they follow the rules? Right? Man, look at them. They're doing things that are, they're putting everybody else in jeopardy, or what are all these rules? I'm going to the beach. I'm going, right? So we get irritated at each other. But remember, different people process things differently, and it's all based on how we were raised and our perspective. And my perspective may not be the same as yours. It doesn't mean your perspective is wrong. So I shouldn't be getting PO'd at you for having a different perspective than me. Because here's the truth. If we were all raised in another country, our perspective would be different than it is here today. Right? Maybe even a different city like New York City, right? If we were living in New York City, our perspective would be different than it is here in Chambersburg, different state, wherever, right? So knowing that our perspectives can change, depending on where we're at, that tells me that the perspective I have today isn't necessarily right. And how can I get mad at somebody else if they don't have the same perspective as me? So I added this thought in here because I'm encouraging you to respect and support one another, regardless of whether you agree or not, because we simply process things different. And remember, we have a common enemy, and that's Corona, COVID-19, right? We can beat it by working together, not arguing against one another, and just rah-rahing our own opinion. So that's number two. Different people process a crisis differently. Number three, we change as individuals. I know I've changed already. How about you? Yeah. A crisis never leaves us the same. And that's based on the universal law of rhythm, right? So we either progress or we regress. So law of rhythm says that we either move forward or backward. Everything in the universe is moving forward or backward at any given time. Any given time. In fact, sorry to tell you, but you're all older now than you were when you got on this session today. We can't stop it. Everything's constantly changing. But the question is, are you going to progress, move forward, or are you going to regress and move backward? If you want to progress forward, we need to gain control of today. Take control of today. If we take control of today, this very moment, yeah, and then we take care of tomorrow when tomorrow comes, and we take care of the next day when the next day comes, then the future takes care of itself. There's a lot of power in today. Today matters. So change is happening. We're changing as individuals, but take care of today and work to be a progressor versus a regressor. I just made those two words up. So either way, we're going to change. Okay. Number 4. This is the fourth one. Opportunities come that otherwise wouldn't present themselves. This is kind of an interesting one. Now, Albert Einstein, right? Pretty bright guy. He says, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. That's something very important to remember right now, because we're certainly in difficulty. So wait a minute, if we're in difficulty, that means there's opportunities. Good things really do happen in a crisis, and options that we never would have thought of previously suddenly become viable options. Like that, there's that meme on Facebook about churches not wanting people on Facebook. Before this happened, now churches want people on Facebook, right? It's like this new option that never was viable before, but now the churches want people on Facebook. Yeah, it's a funny thing. A crisis is going to make you do things that you absolutely wouldn't have done previously. I'm not good at talking with people, but you know what? Now you got to be on camera, right? And virtual, right? If you have a business, you got to be even better at communicating with people. It's going to make you do things that you absolutely no way would have done before the crisis. And as human beings, we're not going to make changes unless we have to make the changes. Unless we have to make the changes, we get comfortable. And sometimes we need to be forced to change. And I'll just share with you personally. I got let go from a company several years ago, and it sucked. Right? It sucked. Never happened to me before. But when that happened, new opportunities came. If I didn't let go, I would probably be with that same company today, or at least in the same line of business, not doing what I'm doing today. And tell you, I'll be honest with you. I enjoy being with you guys today much more than I did in my prior business. Is program management, government contracting, total different world, right? The reality is, if I hadn't been let go, if I didn't have that crisis in my life, I'd still be there. Still be there.
Randy,
so it's John Maxwell's.
I wanted to interject real quick. Stephen had a question. Can you repeat the last truth? And I believe that was how people perceive crises, but I could be wrong. No.
I don't know. I just pulled that out of my.
Steve, if you want to interject, you feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, please do.
Hi, thanks, Randy. It was the one that opportunities come. I just got the first two words. Opportunities come.
Opportunities come that otherwise wouldn't present themselves. Right? The crisis brings new things to us that otherwise we just wouldn't even. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. And thanks for moderating, Jordan. As John Maxwell says, how we view things is how we do things. How we view things is how we do things. In a crisis, some people are going to look at adversity and turn it into advantage. Others are going to be the victim, and the crisis is going to be worse. So look for, I encourage you, right? I mean, I hope if one of you or some of you have a victim mindset, I encourage you to work on turning that. A victim mindset makes a crisis worse. If you can feel like opportunities come in a crisis, and I'm going to turn adversity into an advantage, then that's much more positive. So try to take advantage of the opportunities that this crisis makes available to you. Yeah, turn it into an advantage. So those are 4 things that happen in a crisis. Things around us change and we adapt or we don't. Different people process things differently, and every one of us is right. We change as individuals, so choose to take care of today, right? Take care of today and tomorrow takes care of itself. And opportunities come that otherwise wouldn't even be thought of as options. So that's the first part. Are there any questions or anything anybody wants to share?
Again, guys, if you want to interject, some folks I know joined a little late. Everyone is currently on mute. So if you'd like to share something with Randy, have any questions or comments, obviously you can go ahead and ask them in the chat area, Or again, if you want to speak, just go ahead and unmute yourselves. And then I ask, after you ask your question, just go ahead and remute yourself as we move forward. But as of right now, Randy, I'm not necessarily seeing anything. So if you'd like to continue, I'm sure people will have things to share as we move forward.
Okay. Well, maybe that means I'm communicating really well and explaining
Well,
with it. I don't know. Maybe that's the case.
I think you are, pal. So keep it up.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. I think I changed that to 4. Yeah. 4 ways to navigate through a crisis. 4 ways. Here's number 1. Be flexible. If you want to navigate through a crisis, we have to be flexible. We see things change a lot through a crisis, right? So when that happens, flexibility and adaptability are key to be able to kind of go with the flow a little bit. So think about all the different directions that we're getting from the government, all the different levels of government, right? And every time that happens, we have to adapt. What do you mean my kids are going to be home from school for a few weeks? Holy smokes. Or what do you mean my spouse and I are going to be in the same house every day together for a while? Holy smokes, right? Yeah, we have to adapt. So we have to be flexible. So to navigate, just have the mindset of, okay, whatever comes, let's figure out how to get through it. And the truth, here's the truth. Back in the old days, the sailors, right? When stormy winds came or big winds came, they adjusted their sails to meet the winds. And that's really what we're doing. We're kind of adjusting our sails to continue going in the direction we want to go to, regardless of what's being dictated to us. Okay, that makes sense? All right, so that's number 1, be flexible. Number 2, leverage and utilize the strengths of others around you. Leverage and utilize the strengths of others around you. I'm not, I feel like I'm a pretty strong person, but sometimes I just need other people to help me. And all of us together are smarter than just one of us by ourselves. If we all got our heads together to work on a problem, I'm sure that there isn't a problem that we couldn't figure out. Instead of me sitting in my office here today trying to figure it out on my own, yeah, I'd much rather be with you. So all of us together are smarter. So get the team together. So in this crisis, get your team together, whatever that is, whatever your team is, and leverage all their strengths. Okay, right? Jordan's got strength. Everybody on here has a strength. So get everybody together, leverage them. There's a story about a bricklayer. This insurance company got an insurance claim from a bricklayer. So this bricklayer had kind of created a building. He had 500 pounds of bricks on the roof of the building that he had to get down to the ground. So what he did was he kind of tied a rope, anchored the rope down on the ground, right? And actually, he lifted a platform up to the roof of the building, tied the rope, went up to the top floor, loaded the 500 pounds of bricks on the platform, right? He goes back down, unties the rope. Well, he's not 500 pounds. So guess what happens? Bricks come down and he goes up, right? He hit the barrel on the way up and got all bruised. Then once he hit the pulley, his hand jammed and broke his thumb. But he held on. Well, not the barrel, but the platform broke on the ground. So now the platform's lighter than he is. He comes crashing down again, right? Hit the ground, broke his ankle. He let go of the rope, and what was remaining of the platform comes crashing down, hit him in the head. And on this insurance claim, question was, what would you do differently in the same situation? And he said, please be advised, I'm finished trying to do the job all by myself, right? If you got 500 pounds of bricks that you're trying to move, don't do it yourself, right? the point is, leverage and utilize the strengths of others around you. A crisis, navigating through a crisis is a lot easier when we work with others. So that's key. Don't do everything yourself. That's number 2. Number 3, lead yourself. Number 3 is lead yourself. Boy, oh boy, huh? Leading ourselves is tough, isn't it? Sometimes we get so worried about what everyone else is doing or what's happening to them that we forget to lead ourselves. We lose focus on ourselves. But leading ourselves in a crisis is even more critical, because if we don't lead ourselves, then we ourselves aren't going to get through the crisis as well as we could. Okay? So lead yourself. You'll be the beacon of light. You'll be able to help more people. It's kind of like the airplane and the mask. Take care of yourself, and then you can help others. So the question for you is, what are you doing to remain physically fit in this situation? What are you doing to remain mentally fit? Do you find yourself like continuing to watch the news and all of the statistics and stories about Corona? Yeah. My mom, I visited my mom a few years ago, sitting in her living room. She says, I heard that if you turn on the news, just watch it for 30 minutes, you'll be depressed. We watched for like 3 hours while I was there. She's depressed all the time. Right? Turn the news off. Get get the gist, but quit feeding all that negativity into your mind. It's depressing. I have a friend in Wisconsin who just the other day was messaging me and like, hey, did you hear this? And boy, the number of confirmed cases is going up and the deaths are going up. And I'm like, dude, do you ever do anything else other than watch all this stuff? He's like, no. He said, but I'm depressed. I'm like, dude, man. So how are you feeding yourself mentally? How are you feeding yourself mentally? So be aware of that. And also spiritually, right? We'll put that in there. From a holistic health perspective, physical, mental, and spiritual. If any one of those is off, we're not healthy. We can eat so well, but maybe we don't move off the couch, right? We can eat perfectly and not move off the couch. We're not healthy. Or we can eat and exercise, but if we don't have faith, we're not healthy either. So lead yourself in a crisis. That's going to help you to navigate through it and be support for other people. Okay. Hope that makes sense.
Randy, I guess to interject, is there sort of a way to, be able to, obviously watch the news to stay informed versus obviously, get swamped into it. You know what I mean? What's kind of your way of thinking there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's kind of like the train wreck, right? You just can't. I mean, once you start, you can't help but keep watching, and you're telling yourself, "Oh, I gotta stop watching this," but you get sucked into it. So, me personally, I used to have a lot of different feeds. I get all this stuff. I just quit following feeds on Facebook. I don't listen to the radio. When I'm in a vehicle, not very much anymore, but when I'm in the vehicle, I turn on uplifting music instead of listening to the news on the radio. I limit what's coming in, and friends, right? My brother, he's, he doesn't. So he's like, he'll text me, he'll message me, he'll like all this stuff, right? So I don't respond back to my brother as often as maybe he wants me to. So I limit.
Okay.
That would be, if you want to stay in tune, give yourself a few minutes, look at one site, see what the latest is or whatever, then move away. Yeah.
And appreciate that. And real quick, just to interject, and we could maybe save this for the end if you didn't want to handle this topic now, but Amanda had asked a question. She said, do you really think that things will never be back to normal? And this social distancing is a structural change. She says, to be honest, that is beyond scary for myself in hospitality and those who may be in hospitality, travel, and food. We rely on people coming together. So I don't know if you wanted to answer that now or handle that at the end, but that is a question we have.
Yeah, it's a good question. My wife is a yoga instructor, and I had this kind of similar conversation with her just a couple of days ago, talking about structural change. And I said, churches. I mean, what are churches going to do? They're having services online, and she's like, well, they're going to go back to the way they were because they're all about, social. They're getting together and people coming to church and people going to those kinds of things. And yoga's the same way, she said. And people like going to yoga studios. Well, I agree, but I disagree. I think for Amanda's question, there's going to be a blend. There's going to be a blend, right? People are going to be traveling, so they got to find a place to stay. But how do you take care of their concerns about maybe getting something, right? Like a friend of mine, he's a mentor of mine. He said he had a cleaning business many years ago. And I can't remember what, I think it was, AIDS, when AIDS first came out. So he's laying on a bed in the dentist's office looking up, and he sees like all this dust in the vents and like all this kind of thing. He's like, that's not good, right? So people are concerned about getting AIDS, right? And at the time, they didn't know how they were going to get AIDS, right? Nobody wanted to get AIDS. So he saw that and he got ahead of it, and he started working with the dentist's offices on how he can make sure that their offices are as clean as absolutely possible, so then they can tell their customers that, hey, we hear you, right? Here are all the things that we have done to make sure your stay here is as best as absolutely possible. So I think for the hospitality industry, it's going to be something similar. People are still going to come, but how do you set their mind at ease ahead of time? How do you get ahead of that? Maybe you have some social media, right? You walk through the spaces and you say, no, I'm just creating here to answer. You walk through the spaces, hey, you know what? Here are some of the things that we do to make sure that when you come into this room, it's absolutely clean. So you don't have to worry about things when you stay here at my place. We do this, we do that. And, I heard that some of my clients were concerned about. Here is everything that we've done to address those concerns, right? And just like get way ahead of people, because it's a structural change. People are concerned. They'll always be concerned, especially if we have another virus like this. So we have to set their minds at ease. And to me, that's the structural change we're talking about. Not that people are going to stop going to hotels. But the structural change is, how do you settle people's minds so that they're comfortable staying there? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I mean, we are already taking actions. Actually, we have a little sneeze guard that we've actually placed in front of the front desk already.
Yep.
I myself am running front desk some shifts, and when I'm handing credit cards, IDs back and forth to people, I'm wiping them down with the sanitizing wipe before so if it touches my hands, don't worry, I'm going to sanitize it before it gets back to you. We are making sure that each shift is disinfecting the elevators, the buttons, tables, surfaces, door handles. We're taking every precaution possible, but with us, my concern is if people don't start congregating together, like the summer sports tournaments are really big for us. And throughout the week and throughout the rest of the year, corporate travel is actually what really benefits us. So with all the travel bans that have been set into place, if these things don't start lifting, and if this is going to be a permanent kind of thing where everyone's kind of doing everything virtually, it's going to be really hard. And I mean, we're just having to reevaluate and constantly trying to figure out new ways of getting business in here, because we've had to put some of our staff, just not on the schedule. And I absolutely dread that. I told them a couple months ago that I never wanted that to happen to them. And here it is happening, and there's nothing I can do about it, really.
Yep. Yeah. And thanks for sharing that too. And I appreciate everything you're doing. And the structural change in your perspective is doing those kinds of things, the glass guard, and cleaning the elevator buttons. And I just had a thought come to my mind. Maybe one day we'll have voice activated, elevators, right? You get in floor 5, right? You just say it and you go to floor 5. So you're not touching anything, And so to me, that's the kind of structural change that you'll deal with. Once this is lifted, people are going to be ready to get out and go on the road. We just have to help them with their concerns. And you're already doing that. So I would figure out how to capture those things and use them in some of your marketing materials. Yeah. Is that good?
Good for me. Right. Sorry, I didn't mute myself.
Right. No, you're okay. Good. Great question. Any other questions while we're paused? Great question.
Don't see anything in the chat as of now, Randy. I don't think, guys, I'll open it up to you for a couple more seconds. Again, to unmute yourself, it's in the top right corner. So if anyone wants to interject, please feel free to do so throughout, or just go ahead and type in your question in the chat area, and I'll be sure to let Randy know that you guys have something for him.
Awesome.
Hey, Randy, I just wanted to say this, when you were talking about the news, what I realized is when I was a kid watching the news, it was news, right?
Yeah.
The stuff that was kind of like so-and-so got married was all the way at the end of the news, after sports and after weather. Now it's right at the beginning, right? So it's almost like we've blurred the lines between what's real and necessary. Like, is it necessary for me to learn who got married? Like, it's not that necessary for me. But what if I treat the news like a business meeting? What if I sit in front of the news with, especially during a crisis like this, what if I sit in front of the news with my notepad, with my iPad, with whatever, and just take the notes that are important, and then as it starts repeating itself, I can just change the channel, right? I can just go off. And so I only need to get new information. I don't have to sit there and be, have my mind numbed by folks. And the news, like everything else, has its own agenda. I don't want to get political, but everybody has their own reason for doing stuff, right? And so I don't have to follow the news. I just have to get the news that I need and then get off. And so I just want to add.
Yeah, that's great. And what is it that you want to find out, right? What's your question? You have one question. Hey, what's the latest on the PA coronavirus? You just go out there and there's a lot of information, get it, and you're back off social media, and then just listen to some, whatever music you want to listen to, or read something good, or have a good conversation with a friend, or whatever it is. Yeah, I like your thought. We are in control of that. We just decide what we want to do. And we make that choice. Yeah, awesome. Yep. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Number four, navigating through crisis. Have faith. Having faith. This one has 2 pieces. One of these is to have faith in your fellow human beings. Are people always doing the right things? No, right? There are bad people out there. But don't lose faith in humanity, because there's a lot of good happening too. Generally speaking, human beings are good. So think about the opposite of faith. Think about the opposite of faith. Opposite of faith is mistrust. And when we mistrust, it's an awful feeling and it gives us fear. We're afraid of what they're going to do to us. Maybe we're afraid of what they won't come through with something they're supposed to come through with. But the other piece is, right, so have faith in your fellow human beings. Again, everybody on here, just by virtue of you being on here, I know that you're doing good things, right? I'm like, if we had a conversation, we can make a list of all the good things we're doing. So have faith in human beings. The other piece is to have faith that everything that happens will result in something good. So that story I told you about being let go from the job, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here today. So really, God helped me by moving me out of that job so I could do what I'm doing today. And this coronavirus, yeah, people are dying. People are struggling with finances. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. Somewhere in there, there's something good that's going to come out of this. And when I sit back and I look at it, yeah, there's social distancing, but there's also an increased closeness. Right? We're communicating differently, and perhaps we're even communicating more. I do some team building with a local bank, and the lady that runs one of their branches, the loan department, told me that her team is set up into two teams, right? Team A, Team B, and Team A will come in, work for a couple of days, Team B stays at home, and then they'll swap. She told me today that she is absolutely amazed by how well the team is working together through all this. Before, there's some, communication wasn't always the best, but this situation is really bringing out the best in them. And all the stuff that she did up to this point was preparing her team to do well in this situation. There's always something good. There's always something good in a crisis. I'm of the belief that there is always, like not like sometimes, but always something good that comes out of something bad, and it's a mindset. If we look for good, we're going to find good. If we look for bad, we're going to find bad. Yeah. So work on starving your fears and feeding your faith. Feeding your faith in the good, feeding your faith in human beings. So starve your fears and feed your faith. Okay. So those are 4 things you can do to navigate. Be flexible. Leverage and utilize strengths of others around you. Lead yourself and have faith. Any questions or thoughts on that piece? We have one more piece to go.
Randy, you're doing a great job.
Okay, thanks, brother.
Yep.
All right, last piece. 4 ways to grow in or from a crisis. 4 ways. Number 1 is just recognize that struggle means growth. Struggle means growth. Is anybody in here not struggling in some way? Right? Could all raise our hands. There's struggles in some way, and a lot of people are. If you're struggling, that doesn't mean you're failing. So don't get down. I'm struggling. I'm failing. No. Struggling means that you're growing. That growth can be in some of the ways that I shared earlier about navigating through a crisis, but think about it in this way. Imagine we're all young trees, right? We're a couple feet tall, and we're in a windy environment. Every day the winds just blowing hard. And as we grow, our root system gets deeper and wider to give us the stability to withstand all that's happening. We keep getting taller. We can withstand much because we're growing as we're struggling to face all the wind and all the adversity. Now imagine if one of us grew into a nice tall tree and never had wind in its life at all. what happens when a strong wind comes? Tree's going to blow over. Yeah, it's just going to blow over. Kind of like palm trees, right? There's hardly any root ball to them. They just, right? So struggle means growth. You're growing your roots out. You're getting more stable, right? And that's going to mean that you can handle even more later. Remember, this crisis is passing. You're getting better in this crisis. You're going to be able to handle more afterwards. So next crisis that comes, you're going to be like, I survived Rona. Is this all you got? Right? It'd be like the Dukes of Hazzard song, straighten the curves, flatten the hills. Someday the mountain might get us, but the crisis never will. You know, I made that up the other day. Kind of wanted to sing it, but didn't want to put you guys through that. But you got this. You got this. You're not failing. Struggling doesn't mean you're failing. You're either up or you're getting up. You're growing. You're growing.
Jenny, who had joined our call, Virginia, she had posted something I noticed the other day online too. And again, it's very easy to sort of get down on yourself right now. I think you're not doing enough, but you know, I think it's very important to realize like this is a new situation for all of us. So, I mean, you know, just giving it your best is sometimes like all that you really can do during this point in time. So, I mean, it's I think it's just very easy when you're alone at home and not out to do anything to get discouraged. But I mean, I think it's very important to realize like there is really no blueprint for how to handle this situation, you know? So.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements. And I think the fourth one, maybe the third one, is just simply do your best, right? Your best today may not be the same as it was yesterday. It might be kind of not as good as yesterday. Or even like right now at 12:48 may not be as good as you felt like at 9:48 this morning. But yeah, do your best regardless. And, you know, if it's not as good as it was, that's okay. That's okay. Don't overdo it. Yeah, don't overdo it. Yeah, I like that. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. Okay, number 2. Take action to get traction. Take action to get traction. See, a plan to get through a crisis is good because it gives us direction, but action is what gives us traction. And traction is what pulls us toward what we want. So have a plan, right? But you got to take action. You know, the opposite of traction is distraction. And distraction gets us off course. And we can easily be distracted today. We talk about the news. Holy smokes, right? We get sucked into watching the news and listening to news all the time, and that's all we think about. We get distracted from positive action that's going to give us traction. So to get traction, we want to be conscious and intentional about every action that we're taking in the crisis. Now, you know, I say every action, right? Sometimes I don't do much of anything. I need some downtime, right? So I'm not saying like every minute of your day be doing something that's going to get you traction, but be intentional about it. But think about your tendencies. You know, are you easily distracted and losing focus? In other words, are you busy and not getting anywhere? You know, or do you have a plan, which is your direction, to get you through the crisis, and you're taking specific actions every day to get through it? So think about this, right? So focus on today, right? Already talked about that. Take care of today with action. That gets you traction, and tomorrow takes care of itself. Again, I repeated that because it's so important. And remember too, anything worthwhile is uphill. You can't think about like going downhill and that this is so easy. Everything worthwhile is uphill. It's going to take work. And a crisis makes almost everything an uphill action. But it's going to be worthwhile in the end. So take a step, right? If you don't know, if you don't know where to go, like Amanda asked that question, like how do I handle this structural change? The plan is to take one step. Don't try to create this grandiose plan that's hard to manage. Your plan could be one step. Take the one step. After that step, then you take another step, and then another step. Each step leads to your growth and learning, right? So either it works well and you're like, boy, that was good, or it doesn't go well and you're like, okay, how can I change things and do better the next time? So you learn, right? So either way you're good. A friend of mine, a mentor, he had a cleaning business, and him and his friends' business plan was one step. And I think I've shared this with some of you before, but one step was walk down Main Street in their town and just start washing the windows, cleaning the windows, right? Windows dirty, they start cleaning. People are going to come out, hey, wait, time out. What are you doing? Why are you washing our windows? Well, we just noticed your windows are dirty. Do you have a cleaning crew comes in? Because if the inside is as dirty as these windows, maybe we can be your cleaning crew, right? And they got hired like so much, right? Their business just exploded. So one step, right? One step is all you need. And by the way, if you need help with that, I know a good business coach. I think Jordan, good business coach too. All right, moving on. We have 8 minutes left. Number 3, look internally. Look internally. So if you want to grow, you got to look internally. A lot of people find their strength outside of them: money, power, titles, cars, wardrobe, right? Those kinds of things. But most of the things that make us better are in the inside of us, are on the inside. So Maxwell Maltz, he has a book, The New Psycho-Cybernetics. I've heard it referenced a lot, so I started reading it. But in this book, he says that understanding the psychology of self, your self-image, can mean the difference between success and failure, love and hate, bitterness and happiness. How you see yourself is absolutely key, because your self-image controls what you will and you will not accomplish. And because of that, how you see yourself in a crisis is incredibly important. So just for example, I'm such a failure. Everything I try, I fail at. So your self-image is a self-image of failure. So if you see yourself as a failure outside of a crisis, the crisis comes, holy smokes, it's just going to be compounded. But if you see yourself as a creative, maybe solution developer or whatever, right? And just making stuff up. Outside of the crisis, when it comes to the crisis, you're like, oh yeah, okay, let's see what I can do, right? See, your self-image, how you see yourself, is so important. So important. So that's why number 3 is look internally. Mr. Maltz goes on to say that discovering your real self means the difference between freedom and conformity. So we need freedom to be flexible, right? Creative and adaptable during and after the crisis. We need freedom. We can't be tied down and locked down to certain things. I bet that if I asked each of you today, how creative have you been during this situation? You'd be able to give me a list of a number of things, right? Oh, I did this, I did that, right? Yeah. That's the freedom. You're free. Even though we have these guidelines out here, can't travel and 6 feet and all that, you're still creative. You have that freedom. And your self-images are probably pretty good. Pretty good. So look internally. So if you want to grow in a crisis, look internally. We're going to see if we can wrap this up. Number 4, the last one. Welcome the scars. Welcome the scars. Scars are what give us authenticity. You know, if we look at our grandparents and generations before us, we tend to listen to them, right? I mean, they just went through a lot. And I came back from Korea in 1995. I was there for a year in the Air Force. And I was talking to my grandmother, you know, I was expecting some, oh, you poor boy, right? I told her, oh, I was over there for a year, you know, didn't get to see my wife, you know, all this kind of stuff. But I always remember she said, I know what you're talking about. When your grandfather was in Europe for 3 years during World War II, I didn't get to talk with him once. And every time Western Union came to the door, I didn't want to open the envelope because I didn't know what was in it. I'm like, she has scars, right? I have these little tiny scars coming out of Korea. I thought, oh, she had scars and she was authentic. And I've always remembered that story. So none of us get to enjoy life without an occasional ride on the struggle bus. Yeah, we're in a struggle bus right now. We're going to keep getting scars. We're going to keep on. And as we earn our scars, we kind of learn to drop the BS from life. Yeah, not dealing with that anymore, right? So-and-so's not in my inner circle, right? I'm not putting up nope, no way. I'm not putting up with that anymore. Scars allow us to do that because we've learned. We become mature. We become more grounded. It gives us wisdom. Scars give us wisdom and help us to move through all these things that we're dealing with. One last thought with scars. Instead of asking, how long will this last? Or, you know, ask, what can I learn? What can I learn? How can I get better? It's so easy right? We hear, how long is this going to last? Man, oh man. Instead, ask, what can I learn? How can I get better? How can I get my business better? Right? Ask those kind of questions. So we're all getting scars out of this, but we're also growing with those scars. So welcome the scars in the middle of this crisis. You'll be better. So those are the 4 things. Simply recognize that struggle means growth. We grow more from turbulence than we do from the calm. Take action to get traction. Every time we take action, we'll learn something that works or doesn't work. If it doesn't work, we adjust. Take action to grow. Number 3 is look internally. True growth comes from the inside, and our self-image impacts our results. And then number 4, welcome the scars. Scars give us the authenticity and wisdom. So there you have it. There you have it, guys. Did that help you? Did that help you with today's crisis?
Yeah. We still have 15 minutes, everyone. Wanted to do that. Gave Randy an hour to do his presentation. So if you guys have any questions or comments, now would obviously be a great time to do so. I see in the chat here, Heather had said at least a lot of great people are on the struggle bus together. You know, so very true. And we have some other comments going on as well. But Randy, awesome job. So I wanted to open up to anyone. Anyone have any questions or comments? Please feel free to share.
You know, if there's anything out there, just if your company, you know, needs to hear this, I know there's a lot of note taking and stuff, but if your company needs to hear it, let me know and I can bring it to your company.
Yeah, Randy,
happy to do that.
Why don't you give everyone your contact information in case they're interested in, you know,
Sure.
obviously connecting with you after this.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, good idea. My email is randy.j.wilson@gmail.com. And my phone number is 717-414-6064. And I welcome any, you know, if you have a question, you want to have a follow-on thought, you have anything, just please reach out.
And if you guys didn't get that or anything, I had sent everyone a Zoom, you know, invite to come on to this meeting. So feel free if you'd like Randy's information, you know, get a hold of me and we can certainly get that to you. Me personally, just wanted to give everyone the heads up that this is a segment that we're hoping to do on a weekly basis. And as it gets more and more popular, hopefully we can even do it on a bi-weekly basis. So if you know anybody or you personally have any really good information for our community, pertaining to the COVID virus or just things that'll help folks get through this COVID virus, certainly would love the opportunity to have you guys on in a similar format that Randy's doing right now. It doesn't need to be over the lunch hour. It can be anytime during the day. That's why we kind of gave this name the Power Hour instead of a lunch and learn or something like that, so we could open it up for individuals all throughout the day. Also wanted to make note for the individuals that are still in here that we are still trying, as I shared with you at the beginning of this call, to still get our members together and have them do something fun together. So what we decided to do on Thursday of this week, starting at 3 p.m., is do a virtual mixer. We're calling it the Mingle Mayhem, and it's going to be a bingo themed mixer event that we're going to be doing. So if you guys are interested, there should be some e-blasts and some registration info being sent out about that now. So highly implore you guys to, if you want to have a good time on I believe it's Thursday at 3 p.m., come join us for that awesome mixer. So that's all I had personally. So again, if anyone has anything for Randy or I, now would be the time, but if not, we certainly appreciate it. And Randy, thanks again, man. You did an excellent job.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. It's, it took shape over a week, and, that I had a lot of thoughts, certainly a lot of things that could have talked about, but it felt like it hit the mark. And I appreciate all the comments, the questions and stuff. And if any questions at all, just ask. I'm there for you. Remember, I'm your friend.
All right, guys. Well, hey, appreciate it. If anyone needs to get a hold of me, obviously I'd sent you the Zoom info out, so please feel free to email me, and my contact information's in all those emails. So thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day and an even better week. See you guys.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.